Take it down by Friday, Mr. Mercer, or the HOA will remove it for you and bill you for every hour of labor." Barbara Lee didn't just say it. She announced it like she was delivering a sentence from a throne instead of standing in my gravel driveway in a lavender blazer and pearl earrings. Her finger was aimed at the giant live oak in my backyard, the one that had stood there longer than half this county had been paved. Its branches stretched wide over the old stone patio, throwing cool shade across the grass where my daughter, Emma, used to read every afternoon. I had spent 14 years as a fire investigator, so I knew the look of someone trying to create panic before facts could get in the way. 3 months earlier, my wife Nora and I had bought the house at the edge of Briar Glen because it felt like the last real place left in a neighborhood obsessed with sameness. The house needed work, but the land had soul. And at the center of it all was that oak, thick-trunked, beautiful, and marked on the original survey as a protected heritage tree. We added a circular bench beneath it and strung warm lights for summer evenings. Emma called it our cathedral. Barbara called it an eyesore. A week after she spotted it during one of her courtesy inspections, a certified letter arrived accusing me of maintaining a dangerous, unauthorized landscape feature and demanding immediate removal. I read the notice twice, then opened a fresh binder and started doing what I had always done when someone tried to bury the truth under paperwork. I built a case. Barbara's letter claimed the tree was diseased, structurally unsound, and a threat to property values. It also claimed the bench beneath. It was an unapproved structure that proved I had developed the area without approval. None of it sat right with me. So I called a certified arborist, then the county urban forestry office, then the clerk who handled heritage tree permits. By the end of the week, I had the answer Barbara never expected me to find. The oak wasn't just healthy. It was estimated to be nearly 200 years old, protected by county ordinance, and currently within an active nesting buffer because a pair of barred owls had made a home high in the canopy. Disturbing that tree without county authorization could trigger serious fines. I sent the HOA a polite response with the arborist report, the survey, the ordinance, and photos of the nest. Barbara ignored all of it. 10 days later, she doubled the fine, called my evidence irrelevant, and scheduled a disciplinary hearing. That was the moment I stopped treating her like a difficult neighbor and started treating her like a threat that needed to be documented. The hearing notice turned out to be a gift because it gave me time to look around the neighborhood and realize I wasn't Barbara's first target. The retired teacher across the street had been fined over a wheelchair ramp for her husband. A young couple at the corner had received warnings over the native wildflowers they planted to help pollinators. Another family had been threatened for parking a work truck in their own driveway. Barbara didn't enforce rules. She weaponized them. I met with an attorney named Dana Ruiz, a former municipal litigator with no patience for petty tyrants. She flipped through my binder, smiled once, and told me the HOA had already stepped over its own bylaws, county code, and basic due process. The night of the hearing, the clubhouse was packed with residents pretending they were only curious. Barbara sat at the front with a smug little gavel and read her prepared statement like she was prosecuting a public nuisance. When she asked whether I would agree to remove the tree, I stood up, turned toward the room, and said no. Then I explained why. I cited the ordinance. I named the county case file. I mentioned the owl nest. The room changed all at once. People stopped seeing a tree dispute and started seeing what it really was, an abuse of power dressed up as community standards. Barbara's smile vanished. By the time I sat down, she looked less like a president and more like someone realizing the audience had switched sides. 3 days after the hearing, Barbara made the mistake that ended everything. A tree service truck rolled into my street just after 9 in the morning, towing a lift and carrying enough saws to butcher half the block. The crew foreman stepped out with a work order signed by the HOA. He said they were there to remove a hazardous tree. I was already recording before his boots touched the pavement. I met him at the property line, showed him Dana's cease and desist letter, then the county email placing the oak under active protection, then the page describing penalties for disturbing a heritage tree with a nesting site. He read it once and went pale. I pointed up to the owls, then back to his truck and asked if his insurance company knew he had been hired to violate county code on camera. That did it. He told his crew to pack up. As they strapped the equipment back down, I saw Barbara's SUV parked half a block away behind a hedge, watching. I made sure my phone captured that too. By dinner, the video had spread through every private neighborhood text thread. By the next evening, my living room was full. Residents came carrying violation letters, photos, and stories. Then the HOA treasurer, apparently deciding he preferred honesty over prison, slipped an envelope into my mailbox. Inside were invoices showing Barbara had been funneling association money to her brother's landscaping company for fake hazard mitigation projects. She hadn't just overreached. She had been profiting from it. Once the money trail surfaced, Barbara's authority collapsed faster than I expected. Dana filed for an injunction, a records action, and a complaint with the county. The neighborhood filed a recall petition with far more signatures than we needed. At the special meeting, every chair was filled and people were standing along the walls. Barbara arrived alone, still wearing lavender, still pretending posture could substitute for power. Dana spoke first, walking the room through the timeline. The false violation, the hearing, the attempted tree removal, the protected nest, the truck, the video. Then she put the invoices on a projector and showed where the HOA's money had gone. The silence lasted maybe 2 seconds before the room erupted. Barbara tried to call a smear campaign, but no one was listening anymore. The recall vote was overwhelming. The county later confirmed additional financial misconduct, and her brother's company quietly disappeared. Every retaliatory fine against the neighborhood was voided. The new board rewrote the enforcement rules, opened the books, and replaced fear with actual transparency. A month later, Emma climbed onto the bench under the oak with a library book in her lap while the owls slept overhead, and Nora brought lemonade out to the patio. The tree looked exactly the way it had the day we bought the house, steady, rooted, impossible to bully. In the end, Barbara didn't lose because I shouted louder. She lost because facts last longer than threats, and because once a whole neighborhood sees the truth, even the loudest tyrants sound small.